Hello everyone and welcome back to Noble for GCSE. So today we're going to be doing another after school live stream. I hope you're finding these useful. Today we're looking at English language paper 2 section B. In other words, the persuasive writing task. Now I know some of you have been wanting me to do some O-level content. So if you're here for some O-level content, feel free to please link the PDF in the chat that you want me to go through the PDF exam questions. But for now, we're going to go through the AQA syllabus, but this is also applicable easily to Edexcel. So you can see here, I've put on the screen some key things, persuasive devices, and it stands for A Forest. So we've got anecdotes, we've got facts, opinions, rhetorical questions, repetition, emotive language, exaggeration, short sentences, triplets. All of these things are needed within persuasive writing. Now, how do you ensure that you include all of these things? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to look at an example, look at how all of these things are being implemented, and then we're going to try and implement that in our own question. I found this really helpful document which has loads of practice questions. So let me just put up the task now. So we are going to be looking at a waggle. A waggle, if you don't know already, is what a good one looks like. An exemplar, which got a really high mark. Let's now switch the screen. Now, just overall, this we can definitely see as a letter. The reason why I haven't given you the question is because I want you to really see how persuasive is this task. Is it really persuasive? Are we able to suss out what the overall message is? Now, we've got a lot of more language techniques like anaphora, rule of three, alliteration, fricatives, rhetorical question, inverted commas. So we need to read really in-depthly as if we were an examiner. So let's now look at this. So the student starts off by saying, "Dear Sir or Madam." Now, initially, and it's well acknowledged by the examiner, and it would be well acknowledged. Then we have this idea. Let me ask you a question. So, first of all, we've got colon. We've got an interesting opening because we are opening it with a verb. So, an interesting opening here. Let me ask you a question. Colon. Why is it that those who are famous are never those who work hard? So, this is a rhetorical question. Already, we are not even more than 2 sentences in, and we already have use of colon, an interesting start, respect within the tone, which tells you the address. We also see direct address in the you. And finally, a rhetorical question. All of these devices are used within the first 2 sentences, and it's integral that you make sure that the first 2 sentences of your English language paper 2 response is this high level so that when the examiner is looking, they can immediately, instantly tell what quality of writing that you're aiming for and that you're at. Let me ask you a question. Why is it that those who are famous are never, see some very emotive language here, never those who work hard? This might seem paradoxical in nature to you. Again, direct address. And indeed to many others. However, have you ever stopped to consider those who really work hard? Another rhetorical question to the reader. So again, very personal, it seems targeted at us and us only. The cleaners, the teachers, the examiners. Now, first of all, this is triplet and it's also use of punctuation. So the cleaners, the teachers, the examiners. So we've got triplet here. And then we've got use of dash, which is another punctuation method. There are millions who work hard without cease or pause, but are not recognized properly for their actions. This is wrong. Now look at this, the impact of this final sentence here. This is a very simple, short, declarative sentence. It's declaring it is wrong. There's a sense that there's nothing else, there's nothing possibly good about it. So it's simple, short, blunt, and it's the message. So we're definitely told, made clearly aware of the right. And that's what we want to see in paragraphs. We want to see this level of analysis, this level of in-depth thought going into all of the techniques that you're using. Seemingly illogical, seemingly illogical, those and famous and in the public eye are those who did not work arduous hours, getting a university degree, semicolon, those who did not spend years slaving, remember, look at this emotive language here, slaving away at a training course at minimum pay. So this use of external thing, again, you can see the writer's notes here because this is coming straight from the example, and the writer said here, wide range, a very wide range of punctuation used here. There's in a very assured tone, and this is created through the declaratives, and as well ambitious vocabulary. So here we can spot the ambitious vocabulary in things like not recognized instead of not looked at. We've also got things like slaving, very emotive language. Those who are rich and famous, and those with mountains of money. Look at this figurative language, mountains of money, that metaphor that is really impactful. In the first place, again, a semicolon used. Those who won the genetic lottery. This is a really interesting phrasing here. And that's what the examiner would really appreciate. Now, another thing to note is a repetition of those who did not, those who did not, those. This is a technique called anaphora. You're constantly repeating something, and in this case, it's an address to a third-party group of people that the writer is criticizing and talking about how life is very fair to a certain group of people. Now, we. So we have those, and then we draw attention to we. This development in pronoun transition as if suggesting that those people are the bad or worse people and we are the good people. So it's, and through including the person it's addressed to, it therefore is a persuasive technique as it makes the writer feel as if they are also a good person. So we have a whole society built on luck and money. If this does not seem wrong to you, then I do not know what would. Now, first of all, I do not know. So this is a first explicit mention of the writer's perspectives. And also we see here an exclamative is being used, which again is some really good language. Now you can definitely see it going off. Now let's just skip back to the final paragraph here. So we see, we can fix this. So that's a really good way to start off the conclusion. We can fix this. As a society, we need to give more appreciation to those who really deserve it. Semicolon. The nurses, the invigilators, the academics. So again, we have a triplet used here. So we notice the cyclical nature because earlier on a triplet was used and now we're seeing it being used again. Now, let's moving on. The problem is not unsolvable. This provides some hope. We can all work for a more equal and appreciative society, comma, a future utopia where nobody is underappreciated. Think of this really extensive length that he's going on about. This extraordinary efforts, we see alliteration there, and still. But This is not today's society. So there's a comparison being made between today's society and the future societies that will happen. In today's society, why is it that those who are famous are never those who work hard? Now, again, cyclical structure, reminding us of what we originally sought out to see. Then we see yours faithfully, and the candidate name has been taken out, but you would put your name. Now, let's look at the examiner's comments. What does the examiner think of this, considering we've read the introduction, a middle paragraph, and the conclusion? So AF5, just note here that the entire question is marked out of 40. So here they got 22 plus 15, which is 37 out of 40. Now that's definitely a good mark. Let's see what they've said. So AO5, there's a convincing argument and it's very compelling. There's complex ideas being dealt with. There's fluidly limbed paragraphs. And there's extensive vocabulary as well as an assured tone, style, and register. Now, in terms of the AO6, this is 15 out of 16 marks. It's consistently secure and accurate demarcation, extensive vocabulary, and wide range of punctuation. So this is what we're looking for. We've just gone over a really good waggle. Let's now move on to creating something of our own standards. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set for you a task. And in this task, I'm going to tell you to answer the question. You're not only going to have 45 minutes to answer this section. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give 5 minutes for planning and then 40 minutes for practice. So let me now reveal to you the question. Now the question is, tattoos are degrading and can limit your chances in life. Write an article for a broadsheet newspaper in which you can argue for or against this statement. So just talking about the idea that the fact that this is a newspaper and there's different types of newspapers. So let's quickly dive into the types of newspapers just in case you're unsure of what a broadsheet means. So a broadsheet is a large a sort of large one, where a large newspaper article, whereas a tabloid tends to be very much smaller. Now, in terms of what there are and what their different purposes are, tabloids are definitely image-led papers, and they're subdivided into groups. There's the red tops, the middle market dailies, things like that. There's massive font on the title and things like that. Broadsheets are text-led quality newspapers, such as The Times, The Telegraph, The Guardian. They have higher news content. The style of writing is definitely much more longer, much more extensive, much more ambitious, and they offer in-depth analysis. So that's the difference. They'll never really ask you for a tabloid because it requires things like massive font images, which you won't be able to have access to because you're not doing this on a computer. So let's look at this question now. Tattoos are degrading and can limit your chances in life. So we have to talk about an article. Now, first of all, we've already got a sense of the address here, your chance in life. So let's think about what we can start to say about this. First of all, let's break this statement up and let's plan this out. So let's break this question up now because we're now going through a practice language paper sections. Tattoos. Firstly, the first part was tattoos are degrading. And the second part to that statement was that they limit your chances in life. And we are tasked to write an article about the fact that tattoos are degrading, and are they degrading? Do they limit your chances in life? So first of all, we need to think of some arguments for and against. Now let's start here. So let's talk about some for arguments. So what makes tattoos degrading? The first point we can say is the permanence of it. That the fact that it's a decision made at a particular point in your life, and however the effects of it is long lasting, so there's a sense of permanence. We can also talk about bringing in statistics. Now that's definitely one thing that the previous response did lack a little bit. There was that lack of that, which is definitely why maybe they didn't reach that 40 mark band. But yes, statistics, and we can make things up. Remember that. That's another thing for this question. We can make things up, responses up. So let's talk about some against points. We could possibly say the my body, my choice movement, and how that stands against this idea that you're not allowed to have certain you are allowed to do whatever you want in order to, because it is your body, and therefore things like employment agencies shouldn't have to limit your chances because of that. So my body, my choice movements. In terms of the four, you can say that the fact that they may be inappropriate for the work environment. And you can give a case study. That's a really good use as well. So a case study. Another good thing to use here is dialogue as well. Introducing dialogue into your response definitely opens it up and makes it less of your opinion as more of different people's. And definitely consider who you're directing this towards. Now, here it's a broadsheet. Loads of people can be reading this. So we don't want to direct this towards a tattoo jobs who are going to we want to be sympathetic to all different types of people, but we also want to get the one main message across. And I think that will be the more against, because it will lose the livelihoods of tattoo artists, this idea of expression, and we don't want the rights to be taken away. So I think it'll be more favourable for the audience that this is directed to if we took on the against perspective. Think of any response in the chat if you're watching this live, or put them in the comments, because I definitely respond and read to every single comment that there is. So I would say come up with at least 3 to 4 points on either side, and try and work your perspective through all of these points as well. So we're going with the against perspective here. So I want us, and I want you, to focus more on the against perspective. Or if you are for banning tattoos and things like that, then focus on that point as well. It's up to you. But just remember that it has to be the side you're stronger at. So even if you believed in the for, but you had more points for against, I would definitely recommend going that way. Now, what I'm going to set you as your task to do is I would like you to, as the question says, write an article for a broadsheet newspaper in which you argue for or against for this statement. Now, as we said, it's for or against, but it's definitely the other side, and that is your task for today. Thank you for joining this live stream. I hope you found that helpful, and I would definitely recommend you answer this question. The more practice, the better, no matter what. And if you feel like your revision is just not being productive, just do something. Just any effort to try and revise at least one thing a day, then you're still moving forward instead of trying to create loads of plans and things like that. If you want any more advice, feel free to comment, and see you soon. Again, as I said, if you had any O-level requests, then you can just comment them down below and I'll try to work it into tomorrow's stream. See you soon.